So in your course, you go under content, go to the Cengage module, click the second link to open your textbook here. And then today's files will be under Unit 2, Chapter 5. So let's see, I think we're going to work through all of these. Not all of these will be submitted. So there are 2 places that are just demonstrations, which we'll go through briefly. I won't go through the whole demonstration. All right, so Unit 2, Chapter 5, adjustment layers. These are fun. You can do so much with adjustment layers, and it's cool because they are what we call non-destructive. So that means that you can apply them and then you can turn them off and your original work is still there. So that's good. However, it does make your files really big, so be wary of that. And then there were a couple of these that were just kind of, I don't know. We're gonna have to talk a lot about the color wheel, I think. So, all right, let's get started. Open 5-1. So in Photoshop file, open, and let's go to desktop, chapter 5. And they picked a photo of a really, really sad person here. I was a little thrown off by this. Just the first 2 assignments. So I think it's like 5-1 to 5-9. So just those. Okay, so click image on the menu bar, point to mode, and then note that grayscale is checked. So image, mode, grayscale is checked. We'll come back in here later and pick RGB color model, but right now we're working in grayscale. So open the info panel, verify that the left side readout is set to RGB. So in our info panel, RGB. And so this part, they're just showing you the range of colors. So with the eyedropper tool, you can go around the image and see how the numbers change, how as you get lighter, the numbers get higher, and as you get darker, the numbers get lower. And all over this little gradient sidebar thing. All right, and it says make the chart layer visible on the layers panel. I'm not sure if I have that open or not. So I'm going to go to window. Oh, I'm sorry. It's not a panel, it's a layer. Here we go. So make the chart layer visible. There we go. And so you have your little chart showing you the ranges. So this is all demonstration, y'all. So as you go over these, you can see the numbers match up. And then it's saying assess the shadows, assess the midtones, assess the highlights. So what color would highlights be? Like if you're looking at black, gray, and white, what color would highlights be? Good morning. No worries. Can you tell me what color highlights would be? Would that be your darkest pixels or your lightest pixels? The lightest ones. So highlights are going to be in this range. Midtones, that's going to be more of your grays. And then shadows are going to be your darker grays and black. All right, so that's basically what they do all the way down to here. It's just explaining it to you. Okay, so drag the chart layer to the delete button on the layers panel. So we're going to get rid of this. Drag it down here, get rid of it. Now click image on the menu bar, point to adjustments and click invert. So image, adjustments, invert. Ooh. All right, so everything that was black, dark gray, and so on went light, and everything that was light went darker. So invert, the opposite. Okay, so we're going to undo this step. So this is what, if you were to do this on a photo, this is what actually like would affect the photo. So the photo is now changed. However, when we do layers, adjustment layers, that's when we do what they call non-destructive editing. So they can be turned off and on. So they're just showing you the difference here. So it says undo your invert. And now create a new fill or adjustment layer button on the layers panel and click invert. So this is the opposite way, the non-destructive way. So we would click this little button here, and then from this menu, we would choose invert. So now in your layers panel, you can see you have your original image preserved, and then you have this adjustment layer that can be turned on and off. Non-destructive editing. So if you are taking the Photoshop certification exam and it says, do blah, blah, blah in a non-destructive editing technique, you know that that means using adjustment layers instead of actually applying something to the photo itself. All right, and then it says show and hide. Yep. Save your work and continue. I don't think I saved it the first time. Hold on. Basic adjustments. So let's go ahead and do that. File, save as, basic adjustments. Okay. All right. So verify the invert layer is hidden and the background layer is targeted. Click on that. Now create a new fill or adjustment layer and click threshold. All right, and so this has changed drastically now. All the pixels become black or white. They're no longer gray pixels here. Verify your properties panel is visible. Mine came on automatically. If not, it's up there. Assess the effect on the image. And then on the properties panel, you're going to drag the threshold layers level slider to 108. Right now it's at 128. I don't drag, y'all. I just type it in. There we go. So all the pixels with a grayscale value of 108 or above are white. Note that the gradient on the right is no longer split, 50-50 white over black. There's now more white than black. More pixels of the image of the man are now white, and his eyes are now rendered with more detail. So as we lowered that threshold, we had more white pixels available, and now we can see more of the detail of this gentleman. This is a really useful technique if you are doing things that would be like cartooning an image, or what I've used it for often is taking an image that I want to take to Illustrator and do an image trace with, and I want it to be like dumbed down basically to black and white lines. I've used this technique for that, mainly on my cat. Okay. So now show the invert layer. And then hide the invert adjustment layer so you can see the difference here. Now hide both adjustment layers and target the background. Click image on the menu bar, point to mode, and then click to RGB color. So image, mode, RGB color, and then don't flatten. Press the letter D on your keypad to go to your default background and foreground. Create a new fill or adjustment layer and click gradient map. Okay, there it is, gradient map. Don't get confused, gradients up here, it's gradient map. All right, on the properties panel, click the black to white gradient option directly above the dither option. So same as when you see in the options, you'll click right in there to open this box. Change the right color stop. I'm sorry, now it says change the left color stop to a dark blue. So on this, I'll just click on it once and then click in this little color box. Slide up here to the blue hues. Choose one and then click OK. And then on the right side, same thing, click on it, click color, slide my hue bar to the yellow. Ooh, that one's a hard one to, it's so little. We'll go for like right in there. There you go, pale yellow. And then add a color stop in the middle of the gradient, change to orange and set its location to 45. So right around in here, you'll click. Ooh, look at that. Bingo. Clicked right on 45. Amazing. And then we will change its color to orange. All right, and it says your gradient bar should resemble this image here. And then compare your work, click OK. Close enough. And then save your work and close. Any questions about that one? Okay, so now we're going to open file 5-2. And I recalibrated my screens yesterday. So just going to give you a heads up that for this one, mine probably will not look good. Long story, but anyhow, yeah, I had to do some work on my screens. They decided to be two different colors for some reason. So anyhow, click select on the menu bar, load selection, and click the channel list arrow, click gradient at the bottom and click OK. I'm sorry, I've always tried to skip this and it's not very good at me. So first of all, let's file, save as, adjust brightness and contrast. There we go. And now select, load selection. And it says channel list arrow, click gradient at the bottom. Oh, here. And then OK. So this is a new way to select something. So there we go. We selected this gradient here. Click image, point to adjustments, then click brightness contrast. Image, adjustments, brightness contrast. Use the legacy checkbox and drag the contrast slider to 60. So check on legacy, the contrast slider to 60. So you can see the changes. If you check and uncheck this preview button. It'll show you the changes that you made. Now drag it to -60. -60. All right, now click cancel. And then select and inverse. So we are now selecting the picture. So select inverse instead of the gradient. Click image and crop. And it's gone. Now you're going to take a moment to assess the tonal range. Get your info panel out. Do the sampling. You know, look at all the numbers. And it tells you about them. Okay. So now click create a new fill or adjustment layer and choose brightness contrast. So in my layers panel, brightness contrast. And then that opens up the property panel. Use the legacy checkbox, drag brightness slider to 50. So use legacy and then brightness, bump that up to 50. And the contrast slider to 78. So that's what I'm talking about. That's not what that's supposed to look like. Mine is a little wonky. That's okay. So hide and show the brightness contrast layer to see its effects. So back into my layers. Stretch this out a little bit. And you can see the difference. Hopefully on your screen, the difference looks more like their difference and not mine. But either way, just follow the directions. You'll be fine. So now save and close. Any questions about this one before I close it out? All right. Lesson 2. I like this one. We get to work on a dogwood flower. So open 5-3. So file, open, and 5-3. Enter Command L or Control L. The levels dialog box opens. The histogram shows the distribution of pixels in the image from darkest to lightest. So Control L. And so here's our histogram. They're going to be asking us to do a lot of slide moving here. Just so you know, these little boxes that are closest to the slide are, you could just type in the levels there. So for instance, this 255, this is the white, this 1 is the gray, and the 0, it goes to the black. So now click cancel. Now that you've seen it, click the rectangular marquee tool and make a small selection of the interior of one of the panels. So marquee, and then petals, not panels, y'all. Sorry. So I've selected a little bit on one of the petals, and now I'll do Control L again so that you can see how the range has changed with just that selection. Nothing in the black. It's between this gray and white. Y'all, I'm sorry. I think the cat's getting to me today. She slept on my pillow and just, you know, sprinkled hair on me all night like glitter. Okay. Now click cancel, make a selection of the top left corner of the background. So top left here. And now Control L. So you can see we have nothing over here now, and everything is between the black and the gray. And then click cancel. Okay. Deselect the image. So select, deselect, or Control D on your keyboard. On the menu bar, go to image, adjustments, and click posterize and enter 3. So image, adjustments, posterize, and in this little box, we'll do level 3. And then OK. Now do Control L, Command or Control L again. So as shown in the figure, the histogram is just now 3 vertical lines. So we took away all of those different shades there, and now they're all black colors. So just gray, black, and white. Click OK, and then we're going to revert. So File, Revert. Okay. So now we've explored the histogram. We're going to employ the levels adjustments. So create a new fill layer, fill or adjustment layer, and click levels. So layers, fill or adjustment, and you're going to find levels. Assess the image. Look where all the little peaks are. Okay, so now drag the black triangle directly below the histogram to the right to line it up with the beginning of the histogram. So they just want us to slide this over to where it starts rising right there. Okay, now click the Set Black Point Eyedropper tool on the Properties panel and float it over the image. Then press Option or Alt. So this first little dropper here, we're going to hold our Alt key, and it turned white because there's no black there. I don't know. I don't know why it does that, to be honest. I'm sure it'll tell us here we go. The entire canvas turns white except for the pixels that have a grayscale value of 0, which remain black. In this case, the image, those pixels are very few and at the center of the canvas. Let's see. Ah, they are there. They're right here. Okay. Now drag the white triangle to the left and line it up with the end of the histogram. So right there, so. Click the Set White Point Eyedropper tool, float over the image, and then press Alt. So that would be this one. And a reverse. So when I press Alt, it shows me everything that is, I guess, pure white, which is just these 2 little dots there. Now drag the gray triangle directly below the histogram to the left side so that its mid-tone input is 1.04. I'm just going to type that. And the image gets slightly brighter. Assess the improvements of the image. Click the eyedropper tool on the toolbar, float it over the shadows, and highlight areas of the image. So with this eyedropper now, we're doing that. You open the info panel. I'm sure this is useful to somebody. I don't quite get it. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's narcissism. Maybe I'm like, I have a pretty good eye of identifying white, black, and gray, but okay. So there we go. All right. So add a second levels adjustment layer and compare it to its histogram. All right, so layer, we're going to do another levels. And so this is the changes of the histogram. Now drag the white triangle left to change the highlight input to 218. All right, we're just going to type that in, 218. Drag the black triangle to the right, change the shadow input to 17. There we go, and then compare your results. Looks pretty good. Mine's not quite like that. So I don't know why mine dips in and that one doesn't. Perhaps I've missed a step, or maybe it's just a difference in monitor colors. I don't know. Okay. So it says these changes are not acceptable because the highlights on the petal are blown out. So you can see there's no longer that detail. You can see it a little bit up here, but as you get closer to the inside, it's just white. Same here, Callan. So focus on the buds of the center of the flower and then hide and show the second levels adjustment layer. All right, so pay attention to these. And then differences. I don't see it. Do you see it? I mean, I see it on the petals, but I don't see it on the buds. All right, now enter Command I to invert the second levels adjustment layer. So make sure that it's, highlighted, and then Control or Command I. Let's see. What difference do we have with that? Absolutely none. All right, so click your brush tool and set the size to 100, the hardness to 0, and the mode to normal. And the opacity to 30%. Set the foreground color to white. So my foreground's already at white. If yours is not, click X and it will toggle those two. So brush tool, we're going to make it 100. Hardness is 0. Mode is normal. Opacity is 30 for this one. Now look past the flower petals and focus on the background of the image. I'm sorry, I missed step 15. So after you set the foreground color, paint the buds to brush in the levels adjustment on that location only. The target layer is hidden. Oops, make sure that that's not hidden. Okay, so now I'm just brushing along these. So that levels adjustment only applies to this middle part. So you can kind of see as I'm going what's happening in that the black part right there. All right. Okay. So now add a third I'm sorry. Let me go to the next step now. Look past the flower petals and focus on the background of the image. Okay. So it's pretty blah. The levels in the background have brighter edges, but those brighter edges are a dull gray. We'll use a third adjustment later to improve the dullness of the leaf edges. So now we're going to add the third level. I just turned on the brush. Make sure the layer is shown and it's highlighted. All right, so third adjustment level. I'm sorry, third adjustment layer. Choose levels. Now drag the white triangle past the right mountain until the highlight input is 158. So 158. Woo! That's right. All right, and the black triangle to the right until its level is 8. The entire flower is now blown out to white. The background lightens dramatically. The shadows in the background are darker. The tonal range of the background is now using the full range of grayscale. You can see the highlights on the edges of the leaves, which are now brighter. Okay, so now you're going to invert the mask. So Control I to make it black. And now change your brush size to 200. Opacity to 40%. I think everything else stayed the same. And then working from the outside in, gradually brush the adjustments on the background without affecting the petals. Okay. So kind of the same thing. Just doing it to the background now. So as you go over, and because we have a lower opacity and 0 hardness, if you go over the petals, that's fine. You're not going to mess anything up. So just brush in here until you feel like it's a little more lighter and dynamic. Okay, check us out. Then compare your little image here to this one. Mine looks nothing like that, but we'll live. Okay. So click the histogram thumbnail on the levels 3 layer on the layers panel to view the image instead of the mask. So if you click here, there's your histogram. Shift click to select all 3 adjustment layers on the layers panel and enter Command G to group them. Okay, so we're going to hold Shift, oops, and click all 3 of these, and then Command or Control G, and that creates a group. If I turn this group on and off, you can see the differences that have been made here. Now save your work and continue. I forgot to save this one when I started as well. This is quite the ugly little habit I have. All right, this one's called adjusting levels. So File, save as. Levels. There we go. All right. So verify your group 1 layer is showing. Now click image on the menu bar, point to mode, click RGB color, and then don't flatten. So image, mode, RGB color, don't flatten. When the flower image and the 3-level adjustments are converted from grayscale to RGB, the adjustments affect the flower image differently. The lower petals are now blown out. The level 1 adjustment needs to be readjusted. So expand the group 1 layer and target level 1. So group 1, target level 1, expand. Wait, hold on. On the properties panel, drag the white triangle to 203. And the black triangle to 29. And then collapse the group 1 layer. Okay. All right. So now we're going to open 5-4. So File, Open, 5-4. this is the same image, but in color. Now select all, copy, close the file, and return to the adjusting levels file. Okay, so I'm going to do Control A, Control C, close, and returned. Verify group 1 layer is collapsed and targeted, then paste. So the idea here is that we're pasting above this group, but if it goes inside of the group, we'll have to move it. So let's see what happens. Control V. Oh, it did. Perfect. Okay. If it goes inside of your group, just click on it and drag it out to move it onto the top. You don't want it inside of the group. So target group 1 layer, then click layer on the menu bar and duplicate the group. So, and now layer, duplicate group, and we're going to name it color adjustments. And then click OK. And so now drag color adjustments above layer 1. So when that blue highlights, you just drop it there and check it out. Amazing. That was like magic. Okay. So now you're just going to go File, Save, and that is it for lesson 2.